My wife demanded, "I need access to your inheritance or I'm leaving." I said, "Leave." Then she thought I was bluffing until she saw I'd moved the funds into an irrevocable trust that specifically excludes spouses. Her lawyer's reaction was priceless. I'm Mason Pierce, 35, mechanical engineer making about $85,000 at Henderson Aerospace. Last year I lost my dad Howard to pancreatic cancer. The diagnosis came fast and hit hard. 6 months from healthy to gone. Watching him deteriorate was brutal, but we had time to talk. Real conversations about life, family, what matters. Dad built his business from scratch back in the 80s. Started in our garage, manufacturing precision parts for aerospace companies. Worked 18-hour days, missed school plays, coached Little League on weekends when he could. By the time he sold 5 years ago, Pierce Manufacturing had 43 employees and contracts with Boeing, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman. 3 weeks before he passed, Dad called me to his bedside. His voice was weak, but his mind sharp. "Mason, I need you to understand something about what I'm leaving you and Melissa. This money represents 30 years of sacrifice. Missed dinners, canceled vacations, nights I fell asleep at my desk. I built this for family legacy, not for anyone who happens to marry into it." He gripped my hand with surprising strength. "Protect what I built. Don't let anyone convince you that marriage means giving up everything your family worked for. A wife should add to what you have, not demand control of it." Those words stayed with me. When Dad passed, he left everything split between me and my sister Melissa. After estate taxes and the division, I inherited $650,000. Melissa got the same amount plus Dad's tools and workshop equipment, which she donated to the local technical college. My wife Diana and I had been married 6 years. She worked part-time as a dental assistant at Dr. Morrison's practice, pulling in about $32,000 annually. We'd always had this underlying tension about money. She constantly pushed for combining all our accounts, complained when I bought workshop tools or automotive equipment without discussing it first. There were regular hints about lifestyle upgrades we couldn't afford on our current income. Diana came from a family where financial boundaries didn't exist. Her parents shared everything equally regardless of who earned what. Her mother managed all household finances, made all major purchase decisions. That model never sat right with me, especially after watching my dad's business partner get cleaned out in a divorce where his wife walked away with half of what she'd never helped build. When the inheritance cleared probate, I opened a separate investment account at First National, told Diana immediately, showed her the statements, exact amounts, everything. I've never hidden finances. Transparency doesn't mean surrender of control. Her initial reaction seemed appropriate, said all the right things about how sorry she was about Dad, how smart he'd been with investments, how it provided good security for our future. She even suggested we shouldn't touch it unless absolutely necessary. That lasted exactly 3 weeks, started subtle during morning coffee. I was thinking we should really update the kitchen. It's looking dated. We'd renovated 5 years ago with granite countertops and stainless appliances. It looked fine. We could use some of the inheritance, just like $40,000. We'd get it back when we sell anyway. I reminded her the kitchen was recently updated. Well, my car's getting old. Her Honda Accord had 38,000 miles and ran perfectly. Your dad would want us to enjoy the money. He worked hard so we could have nice things. That comment bothered me more than the others. Dad worked hard for family security, not lifestyle inflation. The requests kept coming, different angles every time. She wanted to quit work, pursue dental hygienist certification full-time. The inheritance could support us during her schooling. She needed a few months off to decompress and find herself. We should invest in rental properties, use the inheritance for down payments on multiple units. Every conversation somehow circled back to that money. The guys at work noticed my mood shift. Kevin Walsh, my supervisor, pulled me aside during lunch break. We were sitting in his office, overlooking the assembly floor. "Everything okay at home? You seem stressed lately." I told him about the constant pressure to spend Dad's money. Kevin shook his head. "That's inheritance, Mason, not marital assets. My brother went through something similar when his father-in-law died. His wife thought she deserved equal control over money that came from his side of the family. Diana keeps saying we're married, what's mine is hers. Inheritance doesn't work that way, brother. Marriage doesn't erase family lineage. You need to set boundaries now, or you'll regret it later." Rodriguez from Quality Control joined us. My uncle dealt with this exact situation. Wife demanded access to his mother's estate settlement. When he said no, she threatened divorce. He caved, gave her joint control. 6 months later, she'd spent 40 grand on redecorating and a new Mercedes. What happened? I asked. She left him anyway, took half of everything else in the divorce, plus kept spending his mother's money until it was gone. He learned too late that someone who'd leverage your marriage for money doesn't actually value the marriage. That conversation stuck with me. The engineering team started sharing stories during lunch breaks. Financial ultimatums weren't uncommon. Pete from design talked about his ex-wife demanding control of his 401k after his job promotion. Women sometimes think marriage means access to everything, he said. Set your boundaries clear from the start. Meanwhile, Diana ramped up pressure at home. Started mentioning how her friend Jessica's husband let her completely redecorate with his bonus money. How real partnerships meant shared financial control over all assets. How my reluctance showed I didn't trust her or value our marriage. Successful couples make major financial decisions together, she'd say. Keeping secrets about money is what ruins marriages. But this wasn't secrecy. She knew exactly how much was there, where it was invested, how it was performing. The issue was control, not transparency. Then came Tuesday evening. I'd made spaghetti with Dad's homemade sauce recipe, something I'd been craving since his funeral. Diana put down her fork halfway through dinner and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Hard, determined, almost calculating. We need to talk about your inheritance. Something in her tone made my stomach drop. This wasn't another suggestion or hint. This felt different. I want to be added to the account. I stopped chewing. What? I should have access. Full access. We're married. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. That's literally what marriage means. That's my dad's money. He left it to me. And you're my husband. We're supposed to be partners in everything. How can we be partners if you're keeping this huge amount of money separate from me? It's not separate from you. You know about it. You know exactly how much is there, where it's invested, how it's performing. But I can't access it. I can't transfer funds. I can't make investment decisions. I have zero control over $650,000. That's not partnership, Mason. Her voice had this edge I'd never heard before. Cold, determined. It's my inheritance. It stays in my name. Diana's face changed, got harder. So you don't trust me? That's not what this is about. It's exactly what it's about. You don't trust me with money. You think I'm going to what? Blow it all? Steal it? Max out credit cards? I think that money represents my father's legacy. It's not marital funds. It's what Dad left specifically to me. She laughed, but it wasn't happy, sharp, bitter. Marital funds. That's rich. You know what, Mason? Fine. Here's how this is going to work. Either you add me to that account with full, complete access and equal control, or I'm leaving. The silence felt thick enough to cut. I could hear the refrigerator humming from the kitchen, a dog barking somewhere down the street. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm telling you what I need to feel like an equal partner in this marriage. By threatening to leave if I don't give you control of my inheritance. By making it clear that I won't stay in a marriage where my husband doesn't trust me with financial decisions that affect both of us. I looked at her. Really looked. This woman I'd married 6 years ago, who I'd built a life with, shared dreams with, was now sitting across from me threatening to end our marriage unless I handed over control of $650,000 my father had worked 30 years to build. Then leave. She blinked hard. What? You heard me. If that's your ultimatum, leave. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. You want to end our marriage because I won't give you access to my dad's money? Fine. End it. You're calling my bluff. I'm calling your ultimatum. There's a difference. You just told me this marriage isn't worth anything unless you get control of my inheritance. I heard you loud and clear. Diana's face went through 15 different emotions. Shock, disbelief, anger, back to shock, then something like panic. You would seriously let me walk out over this? You're the one threatening to walk out. I'm just taking you at your word. This is insane, Mason. It's just money. If it's just money, why are you threatening to divorce me over it? She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Fine, fine. I'll go stay at my mom's. Give you time to calm down and think about this rationally. When you're ready to have an adult conversation about being actual partners instead of financial dictators, call me. Diana grabbed her purse, her phone, her car keys, walked to the front door without packing anything, without saying goodbye, without looking back. Just left. I sat at that table for a long time. The spaghetti got cold. I kept replaying the conversation, trying to figure out if I'd misunderstood something, if there was room for compromise I'd missed. But no. She'd been crystal clear. Give her full control of the money or the marriage was over. Called Melissa around 9:30. Hey, Diana just walked out. What? Why? Gave me an ultimatum about Dad's money. Wants full access to the inheritance account or she's filing for divorce. Silence on the other end for maybe 10 seconds. Jesus, Mason, you need a lawyer. Yeah, I know. I know someone good. Estate planning specialist, Margaret Kane. She handled Dad's trust revision 5 years ago, really sharp. I'll text you her contact info. Thanks, Mel. You okay? Honestly, don't know yet, still processing. Call her tomorrow first thing. Don't wait on this. If Diana's serious about leaving over money, you need protection. I didn't sleep much that night. Kept thinking about Dad's bedside conversation, his warning about protecting family legacy. Had he somehow seen this coming? Called Margaret Kane's office first thing Wednesday morning, got an appointment for that afternoon. Her office was downtown in one of those renovated brick buildings, 3rd floor. Wood paneling, expensive furniture, law degrees going back to the 80s covering one wall. Margaret Kane was maybe late 50s, silver hair, sharp business suit, had this presence that said she'd heard every story twice and wasn't impressed by drama. I told her everything. The inheritance, Diana's escalating demands, the ultimatum, her walking out. Margaret listened without interrupting, took notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back in her leather chair. Can I be blunt with you, Mason? Please. Your wife just told you exactly who she is. She values that money more than your marriage. That's what an ultimatum means. Someone willing to leverage divorce over financial control doesn't actually value the relationship. That hit hard, but she continued. Here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it fast. Irrevocable trust. We transfer that inheritance into the trust structure. Make you the primary beneficiary, but here's the crucial part. We write the trust so spouses are explicitly, specifically excluded from any claims to the assets. She pulled out a sample document, flipped to a highlighted section. She files for divorce tomorrow or 10 years from now, doesn't matter. That money is completely protected, can't be touched, can't be divided, can't be claimed as marital property under any circumstances. How fast can we set this up? I'll have the draft ready by end of week. You review and sign early next week. Transfer the assets immediately after signing and it's bulletproof. Once it's irrevocable, it's permanent, right? Even I can't dissolve it? Exactly. That's what makes it completely divorce-proof. No judge can touch it. No settlement can claim it. Your father's legacy stays exactly where he intended. Do it. Smart man. Your father raised you right. Diana texted me that evening. Have you calmed down? Ready to talk about this like adults? Me. My answer is still no. Her. Then I'm serious about leaving. This is a deal breaker. I won't stay in a marriage where I'm treated like I can't be trusted. That's your choice. You're really going to let me walk away over money? You gave me an ultimatum. You said the marriage was over unless I gave you control of my inheritance. I'm taking you seriously. Wow, just wow, I can't believe how selfish you've become. That money is changing you into someone I don't recognize. I didn't respond. What was there to say? She'd made her position clear. The trust documents were ready by Friday. Margaret walked me through every page. The language was precise, bulletproof. Spousal exclusion clauses took up almost a full page of legal text. Once I signed and transferred the assets, Diana would have zero claim regardless of what happened to our marriage. This is permanent, Margaret emphasized. Even if you reconcile, even if you want to add her later, you can't. The irrevocable nature is what protects it. I signed, transferred all $650,000 that afternoon. Melissa and I were named co-trustees, me as sole beneficiary. The money was locked away from any future divorce proceedings. Diana stayed gone. 1 week, then 2. She texted occasionally asking if I'd come to my senses. I didn't respond. She came by the house on a Wednesday while I was at work, took a bunch of clothes and toiletries, left her house key on the kitchen counter. 3 weeks after she walked out, I got a call from Wesley Brooks, a lawyer I'd never heard of. Diana had filed for divorce. The divorce petition arrived in a manila envelope 2 days later. I looked up Wesley Brooks online. Small practice, mixed reviews, definitely budget representation. Diana was going cheap, which told me something about her financial situation. Margaret recommended Charles Hoffman for the divorce. He had a reputation for not taking nonsense from anyone. Our first meeting, he spread Diana's petition across his desk and actually smiled. She's asking for half the inheritance. That's not happening. How confident are you? Completely. What's funny is she doesn't know that yet. This is going to be a very educational experience for her. We filed our response within a week. Standard asset division, house equity split, 50-50, joint accounts divided equally, retirement accounts per state law. But the inheritance was listed as separate property held in irrevocable trust, not subject to division. We attached the complete trust documents as exhibits. Diana's lawyer requested financial discovery. We sent everything. Bank statements going back 3 years, investment accounts, pay stubs, tax returns, and the trust documents, all 63 pages with the spousal exclusion language highlighted in yellow. Charles called me about 10 days later. Listen to this. He put his phone on speaker, played a voicemail from Wesley Brooks. The guy sounded stressed, defeated. Charles, hi, this is Wesley. We need to discuss this trust situation. My client wasn't fully aware of the implications. Look, can we meet? Settlement conference? I think we can work something out here. Charles was grinning like he'd won the lottery. He wants to settle because his client just realized she has zero legal claim to that money. He's trying to save face and avoid a complete loss. What did you tell him? That we're absolutely available to meet and discuss settlement, very available. The settlement conference was scheduled for the following Wednesday in Charles's office. Big conference room, too much mahogany, windows overlooking downtown. Diana showed up with Wesley and, to my surprise, her mother, Mrs. Coleman. That's when I knew this was going to get ugly. We all sat around the polished table. Charles's assistant brought in coffee service with actual china cups. Very professional setup. Diana wouldn't make eye contact with me, just stared at the table like if she looked at me directly, she'd lose her composure. Wesley opened the discussion. He was maybe early 30s, already looked exhausted by this case. So, regarding the trust, this was established after the marital separation. We're taking the position that this represents marital funds that should be subject to equitable distribution. Charles opened his file folder, pulled out the trust documents. The trust is irrevocable and explicitly excludes spouses from any claim to the assets. The money never entered the marital estate because it was protected immediately upon inheritance. We'd argue this was established specifically to defraud my client of her marital rights, that it was done in bad faith to hide assets during marriage. You could make that argument, Charles said calmly. You'd lose badly. The trust was established after your client threatened divorce and voluntarily abandoned the marital home. My client was protecting a legitimate inheritance from someone who had just made it clear she valued money over the relationship. If anything, Charles continued, her ultimatum and abandonment gave him excellent legal cause to protect assets she had no rightful claim to. Diana finally spoke, her voice shaking with anger. That money is supposed to be ours. We're married. You filed for divorce, I said quietly, because you refused to share what should be community property. Because you gave me an ultimatum about money my father left specifically to me. Her mother leaned forward aggressively. You've always been selfish, Mason. Even when you two were dating, I warned Diana about your attitude toward money. Charles held up a hand. Let's keep this productive. Here are the facts. The inheritance is not subject to division under any interpretation of state law. Period. We're willing to discuss actual marital assets, house equity, joint accounts, things you actually have legal rights to, but that trust is completely off the table. Wesley looked at Diana. She was getting red in the face, that vein on her forehead starting to show. This is ridiculous, she said. He's hiding money that affects both our futures. He's protecting an inheritance from someone who threatened to leave him over it, Charles replied. There's a significant difference. I'm his wife. Who told him the marriage was over unless he handed over money he inherited from his father? Diana shot to her feet so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the credenza. You know what? Fine. You want to play hardball? Fine. I want the house. The house has approximately $95,000 in equity, Charles said calmly. You're entitled to half. That's $47,500. No, I don't want money. I want the house itself. So you're demanding he buy you out or you'll force a sale? Yes, exactly. I'd been ready for this move. I'll buy you out. Diana looked genuinely shocked, like she'd expected me to fight for the house. You'll give me $47,500? That's your legal half of the equity, yes. And I want spousal support. Charles leaned forward, pen poised over his legal pad. On what basis? You're employed. Part-time. I only make $32,000 a year. He makes over $80,000. That's not fair. You chose part-time work by your own admission. You're perfectly capable of full-time employment. The court doesn't subsidize voluntary lifestyle choices. Wesley cleared his throat. We could argue rehabilitative support. Time for her to increase her earning capacity. Sure, Charles said. You might get temporary support. Maybe a year, possibly 2, probably $500 a month maximum. You want to pay me $8,000 in legal fees to fight for $12,000 total. Wesley looked at Diana. She was doing mental math, and the numbers clearly weren't working in her favor. He should pay my legal fees too. He has access to hundreds of thousands. No, I said firmly. I have money in a trust that's irrevocable. I can't access it to pay marital debts or legal fees. You wanted this divorce. You pay your own lawyer. Mrs. Coleman started whispering urgently to Diana. My soon-to-be ex-wife's face was cycling from red to purple. This is complete garbage, Mason. You're screwing me over on purpose. You screwed yourself when you threatened to leave me over money that was never yours to begin with. You walked out. You filed for divorce. You don't get to complain about consequences. Wesley stood up. Let's take a 15-minute break. They left the conference room. Charles looked at me across the table. She's going to come back with demands for specific items from the house. Prepare yourself for petty vindictiveness. He was right. 20 minutes later, they returned. Diana had a handwritten list, probably composed in Wesley's break room. She wanted our living room sectional, the bedroom set that belonged to her grandmother, my 65-inch Samsung TV, my first edition collection of Isaac Asimov novels that Dad had given me over 20 years, my signed jersey from the 1995 Super Bowl, even my Toyota Camry that was completely paid off. I said no to each demand. You owe me after everything I've put into this marriage. I owe you half the marital assets as legally defined. That's it. You don't get to take things out of anger. Those books are worth thousands of dollars. They were gifts from my father spanning 20 years, not marital property. You're stealing from me. Requesting property you have no legal right to after filing for divorce is closer to attempted theft, actually, Charles said mildly. We negotiated for another 3 hours, finally hammered out a final agreement. Diana gets her $47,500 for the house equity buyout. She keeps her Honda, already in her name anyway. She gets her personal items and half the furniture we bought together during marriage, not family heirlooms or gifts from relatives, no spousal support. Each pays their own attorney fees. We split the roughly $4,000 in credit card debt 50-50. Diana signed the papers, but the look she gave me was pure, concentrated hatred. You're going to regret this decision, Mason. I really don't think I will. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. I paid Diana the settlement from my regular savings account. Hurt to take that financial hit, but worth every penny to own the house free and clear. Diana immediately started a reputation destruction campaign. Told everyone who'd listened that I'd hidden assets, manipulated the legal system, cheated her out of what was rightfully hers. Some mutual friends called asking what really happened. I kept it simple. We got divorced. It's over. Not going to argue about it. Most people who knew both sides understood. Some believed her version without question. I lost maybe 4 or 5 friendships, but those weren't real relationships anyway. Diana burned through her settlement money in under 4 months. New SUV she didn't need, expensive furniture for her apartment, 10-day vacation to Costa Rica, helping her mother catch up on overdue bills. When the money was gone, she tried to get a personal loan, somehow listed me as a reference without asking. The bank called to verify employment and income. I told them I wasn't comfortable providing references for my ex-wife. 6 months later, Diana filed a motion to reopen the divorce case. Her grounds: She'd signed under emotional duress, didn't fully understand the legal implications, and there were undisclosed assets that should have been divided. Back to court with the same judge who'd signed the original divorce decree. He looked visibly irritated when he saw our case on his docket. Diana had hired expensive new representation. Guy in a $2,000 suit with a fancy leather briefcase. This was costing her serious money she didn't have. Her new lawyer argued that the trust should be considered marital property subject to division. The judge read through all the documents, looked at Diana over his reading glasses. "Ma'am, you were fully aware of this inheritance when you filed for divorce, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor, but I didn't understand." "And you had legal representation throughout the proceedings?" "Yes, but my lawyer didn't explain that the money would be completely—" "That's not fraud, ma'am. That's you not liking the outcome of your own decisions." He set the papers down firmly. "Your motion is denied. The settlement stands as signed. Furthermore, if you file any additional motions without substantial new evidence of actual fraud or coercion, I will entertain a motion for sanctions against you. Do you understand what that means?" Diana looked at her expensive lawyer, who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes. "It means you'd pay his legal fees," the judge clarified, "and possibly face penalties for frivolous litigation. Are we clear?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said quietly. "Good. We're done here." Outside the courthouse, Diana tried to approach me. Both lawyers moved to block her simultaneously. "You took everything from me," she yelled across the space. "I took what was legally mine. You chose to leave. You chose divorce. You just don't like the consequences." Life moved forward. I refinanced the house at an incredible rate, made some long overdue improvements, turned the spare bedroom into a proper workshop. The trust kept growing through conservative index fund investments. Melissa and I expanded the scholarship fund in Dad's memory. We're giving out 5 trade school scholarships this year instead of 2. Started dating Jenna about 4 months ago. She's a fellow engineer, owns her own place, completely independent. When I told her about the divorce, her reaction was perfect. "She threatened to leave over your father's inheritance? What did she expect would happen?" The whole experience taught me something crucial about boundaries, manipulation, and what real partnership looks like. When someone shows you who they are through ultimatums, believe them immediately.